15 years of 60-hour weeks at Whitfield Engineering. Never missed a deadline. Then on the morning I was set to break ground on the biggest project of my career, I got fired by someone who'd never worn a hard hat just because his last name matched the one on the building. What he didn't know was that I was the only reason 35 major clients representing 58 active projects stayed on track, and he just lit the fuse on his own destruction. My name is Richard Callahan, and at 48, I'd built my entire reputation around being the most reliable project manager at Whitfield Engineering. That Friday morning in December started like any other. Coffee at 6 o'clock, office by 6:30, reviewing the Mercy General Hospital expansion blueprints for what had to be the 30th time. $25 million. Not our biggest project, but significant enough that I'd personally shepherded it through 8 months of permitting hell. The email notification popped up at 9:15. Not from my direct supervisor, Harold, who was in Washington meeting with Army Corps of Engineers all week. From Austin Whitfield. Come to my office immediately. Austin, 29 years old, Northwestern MBA, son of our founding partner. He'd been installed as operations director 2 months ago after what the company newsletter called an extensive national search. The search that somehow missed every qualified candidate and landed on the boss's kid who'd spent the last 3 years at a consulting firm in Chicago, telling other people how to run their businesses. I saved my work, grabbed my coffee, and walked the long hallway to the corner office that used to belong to our head of field operations. Austin had redecorated. Gone were the engineering charts and safety awards, replaced by motivational posters and a putting green. He didn't look up when I knocked. Sit. The chair across from his desk was deliberately low, a power play I'd seen in bad movies. Austin was scrolling through his phone, designer loafers propped on the mahogany desk his grandfather had built by hand. Richard, he finally acknowledged me, setting down his phone like it pained him. We need to discuss your trajectory here. Is there an issue with the Mercy General project? I can walk you through the timeline. It's not about any specific project. He leaned back, fingers steepled. It's about optimization, synergy, the direction we're taking the company. Optimization. I'd managed more successful projects than any non-partner for 5 consecutive years. My cost overrun rate was 2.1%. But sure, let's talk about synergy. I'm not following. Look, you're competent. No one's saying you're not competent. The way he said it made competent sound like an insult. But Whitfield Engineering is evolving. We need team players who understand innovation, disruption, people who think outside the box. I bit back the urge to mention that construction companies succeeded by thinking inside very specific building codes and safety regulations. That's literally what clients paid us for. What are you saying, Austin? Today is your last day. HR will walk you through the transition. He slid a packet across the desk. Non-disclosure agreement, non-compete clause, 3-month severance if I went quietly. You're firing me the week before Mercy General breaks ground? Jeremy will handle the transition. He checked his phone again, already bored with destroying my career. Jeremy Walsh, his fraternity brother from Northwestern, the recently licensed PE who'd started 6 weeks ago and still couldn't read a structural drawing without asking questions. I'd caught him using ChatGPT to write status reports to clients. Jeremy has 6 weeks of field experience. He's never managed anything larger than a strip mall renovation. That's no longer your concern. His smile was all teeth, no warmth. You have 1 hour to clear out your office. And Richard, the NDA is non-negotiable. You discuss any project details, any proprietary information, and we'll bury you in litigation. Dad's firm has very deep pockets. I stood, keeping my face neutral. 15 years. 15 years of missed soccer games, working through the flu, building relationships with 35 major clients who trusted me with their million-dollar construction problems. 15 years of creating systems, processes, and safety protocols that this company ran on. My name wasn't on any public signage, but my fingerprints were on every major project since 2009. 1 hour, Austin repeated, already typing on his phone. Leave your badge with security. I walked back to my office in a daze. Through the glass walls, I could see my colleagues avoiding eye contact. Word traveled fast in engineering firms. I was radioactive now. 1 hour to pack up 15 years. I pulled out my personal laptop, the one I'd used for weekend emergency calls when the company's system crashed. My personal phone, the number I'd given to project supervisors who needed Sunday assistance, my handwritten project notes, my reference manuals, my coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Engineer." What they couldn't pack into a box were the relationships I'd built, the personal cell numbers saved in my phone, the trust earned through countless hours of meticulous work. As security watched me fill a banker's box, I thought about Mercy General Hospital, about how their facilities director, Patricia Hendricks, had specifically requested me after I'd saved them from a catastrophic foundation issue 3 years ago, about how she'd invited me to her retirement party next month, about how she had no idea that tomorrow her $25 million expansion would be managed by someone who thought rebar spacing was a suggestion, not a requirement. I signed the papers, took my box, handed over my badge, but as I walked out of Whitfield Engineering for the last time, past the granite lobby and the framed photos of 40 years of successful projects, I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost. I was thinking about what they'd forgotten I still had. I sat in my home office at 2:30 p.m., still wearing my work boots, staring at the banker's box like it might explain what had just happened. The house was quiet. Linda was at work. The kids wouldn't be home from school for another hour. I should have been at the Mercy General pre-construction meeting right now, walking Patricia through the final schedule. Instead, I was unemployed 3 weeks before Christmas. The reality hit me like a sledgehammer. Christmas presents for Sarah and Mike, Sarah's college application fees due in January, the mortgage payment, health insurance that would run out in 3 months. At 48, I was starting over in an industry that worshipped young hotshots with MBAs and treated experienced engineers like expensive dinosaurs. But the shock was wearing off, replaced by something sharper, anger, maybe, or clarity. I opened my laptop and started taking inventory of what I actually possessed versus what Whitfield Engineering thought they owned. First, the project documentation. Over 15 years, I developed comprehensive project management templates, safety checklists, and vendor qualification frameworks. The company had never asked me to transfer these to their servers, probably because no one there understood their value. They sat in my personal cloud storage, meticulously organized. My intellectual property, created on my own time, refined through hundreds of projects. Second, the contacts. I pulled out my personal phone and scrolled through the numbers. Patricia Hendricks from Mercy General, George Martinez at Dallas Municipal Authority, Carol Stevens from Baxter Industries, 35 project managers, facilities directors, and procurement heads who had my direct line because Whitfield's official channels meant waiting a week for a callback. These weren't just business cards collected at trade shows. These were people who texted me photos of their grandkids, who asked for restaurant recommendations when they visited Dallas, who trusted me with their construction headaches because I'd proven myself through years of 2 a.m. crisis calls and weekend emergency site visits. Third, the knowledge. I opened a spreadsheet and started listing every active project, every pending bid, every client preference and quirk. Johnson Medical needed everything delivered before 7 a.m. because of their surgery schedule. Metro Planning required all change orders submitted by Wednesday for Thursday review. Mercy General had a standing policy that no concrete pours could happen during patient visiting hours. Details that weren't in any file. Context that couldn't be transferred in a 1-hour transition meeting with someone who thought a PNID was a type of software program. My phone buzzed. Thomas Bennett, my former colleague at the city planning office. Heard what happened, can't believe it. Austin says Jeremy is taking over your projects. God help us all. I didn't respond. The NDA was vague about personal communications, and I wasn't taking chances. But Thomas's text confirmed what I suspected. Panic was already setting in. I pulled up the Texas Board of Professional Engineers website. The non-compete clause Austin had made me sign was 18 months. But non-competes in Texas were difficult to enforce, especially when the termination was without cause. Being fired to make room for the boss's unqualified fraternity brother might qualify as bad faith. I made a list of what I couldn't do. Solicit Whitfield's clients directly, share confidential information, disparage the company publicly. Then I made a list of what I could do. Maintain personal friendships, work as an independent consultant, share my own intellectual property, respond if contacted. The distinction mattered. I couldn't reach out to Patricia Hendricks about the hospital expansion, but if Patricia Hendricks reached out to me, different story. By 4:00 p.m., I'd transformed my dining room into a war room. 15 years of accumulated knowledge spread across the table. I created a new email address, rcallahan.consulting. Updated my LinkedIn to Independent Project Management Consultant. No mention of Whitfield Engineering, no violation of any agreement. Then I waited. Linda came home at 5:30, took one look at me sitting surrounded by project files, and knew. They let you go. Austin fired me this morning. Wants to give my projects to his college buddy. She sat down across from me, still in her nurse scrubs from the hospital. What about Christmas? What about Sarah's college applications? We'll figure it out. I've got 3 months severance and I'm already working on options. Linda reached across the table and squeezed my hand. 15 years, Richard. How can they just throw that away? Because they're idiots, but idiots with lawyers and deep pockets. The first text came at 6:15 p.m., Patricia Hendricks. Richard, the new PM just asked me what a change order is. Please tell me this is a joke. I stared at the message. Technically, responding about the Mercy General project would violate the NDA, but expressing sympathy for a friend's frustration. I'm no longer with Whitfield Engineering as of today. I hope your project proceeds smoothly. Her response was immediate. What? Call me now. I'm bound by certain agreements. I can't discuss specifics. Can you discuss anything over coffee? As friends? I smiled for the first time all day. As friends, always. By 8 p.m., I'd received similar messages from 6 other project managers. Word traveled fast in Dallas construction circles. Each carefully worded response made it clear I was gone, I was restricted, but I existed. Austin Whitfield thought he'd surgically removed a replaceable part from his machine. He'd probably sent emails to the staff about new directions and fresh perspectives, written by the same consulting firm that Jeremy used for project reports. What he didn't understand was that modern construction wasn't about the company name on the hard hats. It was about the 3 a.m. phone calls, the weekend emergencies, the trusted voice on the other end who actually knew what a structural load calculation meant. They had the building, the letterhead, the granite lobby. I had everything else. Monday morning brought the reality check I'd been dreading. Sarah and Mike were at the breakfast table when I broke the news. So, you're unemployed? Sarah asked, looking up from her college brochures. Temporarily. I'm starting my own consulting practice. Mike, 16 and brutally honest, cut to the chase. Does this mean no Christmas presents? It means we're tightening the belt for a while, but we'll make it work. Linda shot me a look that said we'd talk about this later. She was right to be worried. At our age, with our expenses, 3 months wasn't much of a cushion. Over the next week, I reached out through mutual contacts, carefully framing my requests. Not job seeking, that might violate the spirit of my agreements. Just a construction professional discussing the market over coffee. The call I'd been hoping for came on Thursday. George Martinez, owner of Martinez and Associates, an engineering firm 8 blocks from Whitfield. Close enough to share the same suppliers, far enough to maintain professional distance. Richard Callahan. George leaned back in his chair when we met, studying me over his reading glasses. I've been wondering when you'd finally leave that circus. George was 67, had built his firm from nothing, and understood exactly what I wasn't saying. Martinez and Associates had 25 engineers to Whitfield's 85, but they'd survived 35 years by being smart, not big. I'm exploring my options, I said carefully. Consulting, perhaps independent work. Independent work, he smiled. With your client relationships. I maintain personal friendships with many Dallas project managers. Naturally, those friendships persist regardless of my employment status. Hypothetically, he said, if Martinez and Associates were to bring on an independent consultant, not an employee, mind you, someone with extensive project management experience and established relationships, how might that work? Hypothetically, such an arrangement would need to respect any existing agreements the consultant might have. No direct solicitation, no sharing of proprietary information. But if clients were to independently seek out that consultant, they'd need representation. George poured himself water from a glass pitcher. Austin Whitfield called me yesterday, warned me about a former employee who might try to violate his non-compete, suggested any firm that helped him would face litigation. My stomach tightened. And? I told him Martinez and Associates doesn't respond well to threats, especially empty ones from kids playing dress-up in their daddy's suits. For the first time in days, I felt something like hope. "Here's what I propose," George continued. "Martinez and Associates brings you on as an independent consultant. You work on your own matters, build your own practice. We provide infrastructure, insurance coverage, and legal protection if Whitfield decides to get nasty. What's your cut? 25% of billings. That includes full litigation support if they come after you. And trust me, they will." 25% was reasonable. At Whitfield, I'd kept nothing beyond my salary, but 25% of something beat 100% of nothing. "I accept," I said, "with conditions. I won't solicit any Whitfield clients, but if they come to me, I'll represent them. Welcome to Martinez and Associates. Come back tomorrow. We'll get you set up. And Richard, document everything. Every text, every call, every contact who reaches out. We're going to need it." That night, I told Linda about the Martinez deal over dinner. She was cautiously optimistic, but I could see the worry lines around her eyes. "It's a start," she said. "But 25% of what? You don't have any clients yet." She was right. But I had something better than clients. I had relationships. And in construction, relationships were everything. I composed a simple LinkedIn update. "Pleased to announce I'm now consulting with Martinez and Associates. Looking forward to new challenges and continued relationships. Professional, vague, completely within my rights." Within an hour, I had 52 reactions and 14 private messages. Word spread fast in construction circles, faster when people were desperate. I didn't respond to any from current Whitfield clients. Not yet. But I did respond to one from Baxter Industries, a company I'd never worked with before. My phone rang that evening. Unknown number, Dallas area code. "Richard?" "Thank God." Patricia Hendricks' voice was strained. "I know you can't talk about Whitfield business. I'm not calling about that. I'm calling because Baxter Industries needs project management help, and I told them you're the best in Dallas. That's just friendly advice between friends, right?" "Just friendly advice," I agreed. "Good. Because I'd hate to think my recommendation would cause you any problems, especially since as a friend I might mention your name to a few other facilities directors who've been complaining about their current representation." We both knew what she was really saying. "I appreciate your friendship, Patricia." "Likewise. Oh, and Richard, Austin Whitfield is an idiot. That's not business talk, that's just one friend to another." She hung up before I could respond. The first real domino fell 10 days later at 2:45 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was awake reviewing the new OSHA fall protection standards that had gone into effect 6 months ago, the kind of tedious regulatory update that made most project managers' eyes glaze over. But details mattered, especially details that could cost companies millions in fines. My phone lit up. Carol Stevens from Baxter Industries. "Richard, I know it's late, but I just got a citation from OSHA. Something about fall protection violations under 29 CFR 1926.501. Our current PM says it's nothing, but the potential fine is over $2 million. Can you take a look?" "Our current PM, Whitfield Engineering." I typed back, "Send me the citation, no charge for a friend's peace of mind." The document came through immediately. I'd seen dozens like it. OSHA had started aggressive enforcement of the new fall protection regulations. Companies had 90 days to remediate or face escalating penalties. Scanning through Baxter's citation, I found the issue immediately. Their safety protocols hadn't been updated, still using language from 2018. It was exactly the kind of detail I'd flagged in a company-wide memo 10 months ago, a memo Austin had probably never read. "Carol, you need specialized safety counsel immediately. This is serious. The citation references multiple violations that compound the penalties. Can you handle it? I can work with Martinez and Associates' safety team, but you need to move fast. Day 60 of your notice period is Thursday. I'm calling our board chair now. Expect a call from legal in the morning." By 9:00 a.m., Baxter Industries had officially retained Martinez and Associates for emergency safety remediation. Their first act, requesting all documentation from Whitfield Engineering regarding previous safety compliance work. The files Whitfield sent over were a disaster. Outdated templates, boilerplate language, no evidence of the comprehensive safety audit I'd recommended and documented last year. George Martinez walked into my new office at 10:30, grinning. "Whitfield's project coordinator just called, wants to know if we have a template thingy for OSHA compliance. I told him we practice engineering, not Mad Libs." That coordinator is handling 58 active projects across 35 clients. 34 clients now. Stevens just formally terminated Whitfield's representation. Conflict of interest, she said. Can't have the firm that missed the violation defending against it. 1 down, 34 to go. I spent the next 72 hours working with Martinez's safety team to build Baxter's remediation plan. We filed the response with 18 hours to spare, avoiding a $2.3 million fine. Carol called me Friday afternoon. "Richard, you just saved us more than Whitfield billed us in 3 years. I'm recommending Martinez and Associates to every facilities director in my network. I appreciate that, but nothing. I'm not soliciting you to violate anything. I'm telling my peers about excellent engineering services. What they do with that information is their business." The second domino was already wobbling. Thomas Bennett from Dallas Municipal Authority had discovered a similar issue. Not safety this time, but environmental compliance. Another regulation change, another outdated Whitfield template, another 7-figure exposure. Over the following weeks, I'd created what I called the Regulatory Alert System. Anonymous notifications sent to general business addresses, warning about common compliance gaps. No client information, no proprietary data, just public service announcements about regulatory changes that might affect Dallas. Construction projects. "You're playing with fire," George warned, reviewing my carefully drafted alerts. "Whitfield will claim you're using insider knowledge. Every regulation I'm citing is public record. Every deadline is published by the state. If Whitfield's clients happen to realize their current counsel isn't keeping up with basic regulatory changes, that's on Whitfield." He signed off on the alerts. "Send them." The exodus started slowly. A call here, an inquiry there. "Hi, we're exploring options for specialized project management. We need a second opinion on some compliance matters." Corporate speak for, "Our current engineers are incompetent and we're scared." Thomas texted me updates from inside Whitfield. Emergency all-hands meeting, Austin screaming about loyalty, Jeremy crying in bathroom, 3 senior engineers quit today. I didn't respond, but I saved every message. Documentation, like George said. Christmas came and went quietly. No big gifts that year, but Sarah got her college application fees paid, and Mike understood why his Xbox would have to wait. Linda picked up extra shifts at the hospital, and I spent the holidays working on compliance reviews for our growing client base. By New Year's, 5 clients had moved from Whitfield to Martinez and Associates. By February, it was 12. Each transition brought with it 2 or 3 additional projects, and my 25% cut was starting to look like real money. The news I'd been expecting came in early March. Whitfield Engineering filed a cease and desist order against me personally and Martinez and Associates as a firm. Violation of non-compete, tortious interference, theft of trade secrets. George called me into his office where 3 litigation partners were already assembled. "They're claiming you're using proprietary Whitfield methodologies to steal clients." "What methodologies?" I asked. "Their outdated templates? Their missed deadlines?" Our lead litigator, Janet Walsh, explained. "They want an immediate injunction plus damages. They're saying you had access to confidential client information that you're now exploiting." I pulled out my laptop. "Every alert I've sent is based on public regulations. Every client who's contacted me did so independently. And as for methodologies," I opened my cloud storage. "These are my templates, my checklists, created on my personal time, stored on my personal devices, time-stamped years before Austin Whitfield even knew what a job site was." Janet smiled. "Can you prove Whitfield never asked you to transfer these to their systems?" "Better. I can show emails where I offered to implement company-wide safety systems and was told it wasn't a priority." Harold's exact words. "Why fix what isn't broken?" "It's broken now," George said. 12 clients have moved over in 3 months. 18 more have requested proposals. At this rate, Whitfield will lose half their revenue by summer. The conference room phone buzzed. George's assistant. "Mr. Martinez, Austin Whitfield is here. Demanding to see you immediately." George looked at me. "Want to face him?" "Wouldn't miss it." The door burst open. Austin Whitfield stood there, designer suit wrinkled, hair disheveled, looking nothing like the smug executive who'd fired me 4 months ago. "You!" He pointed at me, hand shaking. "You destroyed everything. 12 clients, Richard. 12 clients in 4 months." "Mr. Whitfield," Janet interrupted smoothly, "any communication should go through counsel." "Screw counsel. He knows what he did. Sabotage. Corporate espionage. I'll sue you into bankruptcy." "Looking forward to discovery," Janet said, "particularly the part where we examine why Mr. Callahan was terminated and who replaced him and that person's qualifications." Austin's face went pale. Discovery would mean depositions under oath about Jeremy's experience level, about the projects that had failed under his management. "This isn't over," he said. But the threat was hollow now. "Your father built a respectable firm," George stood. "You destroyed it in 6 months. Mr. Callahan just refused to go down with the ship. Now get out of my office." Austin left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Janet turned to me. "He's panicking. Panicked people make mistakes. Keep doing exactly what you're doing." That afternoon, 4 more clients called. Not about compliance issues this time. They'd heard about Austin's meltdown. Heard he'd stormed into Martinez and Associates making threats. Engineering services relied on one thing above all: trust. And Austin Whitfield had just shown the remaining 22 major clients exactly who they'd been trusting with their construction projects. The emergency board meeting at Whitfield Engineering started at 8 a.m. sharp on Thursday. Thomas Liv texted me from the parking lot. Complete meltdown. Senior partners demanding answers. Austin blaming everyone but himself. Harold's back from D.C. looks furious. I was preparing for 3 client meetings when Janet knocked. "Thought you'd want to see this." She handed me a printout from Engineering News Record. The headline read, "Whitfield Engineering Hemorrhaging Clients Amid Leadership Crisis." The article was brutal. Anonymous sources discussing the firm's chaos, clients questioning the sudden departures, and buried in paragraph 6. Sources indicate that numerous Fortune 500 companies have received OSHA violations, potentially costing millions, raising questions about the firm's competency in regulatory compliance. My phone buzzed. Patricia Hendricks. "Board meeting in 1 hour. We're discussing permanent counsel change. Thought you should know." At 10:15, George appeared in my doorway with someone I didn't recognize, a distinguished woman in her 60s. "Richard, meet Louise Wagner from Sunrise Development. Louise, Richard Callahan." I stood, shaking hands with the project director of one of Texas's largest development companies. "Mr. Callahan," Louise said, studying me with sharp eyes. "I've heard interesting things. 12 companies can't be wrong." "I maintain strong professional relationships," I said carefully. "Cut the engineer speak," Louise smiled. "I've been in this business 35 years. I know a systematic dismantling when I see one. The question is, can you handle what's coming?" "What's coming?" "Whitfield is desperate. They've hired Bradford and Associates to sue you, Martinez and Associates, and any client who switches firms. They're claiming conspiracy to destroy a business." Bradford and Associates, the firm that defended chemical companies and oil spills. When you hired Bradford, you weren't looking for justice. You were looking for scorched earth. Because Sunrise Development needs new engineering counsel. And I don't like being threatened. Austin Whitfield called our CEO yesterday, said any company that hires you will be named in their lawsuit, claimed you have stolen trade secrets that give unfair competitive advantages. "What did your CEO say?" "He said Sunrise doesn't negotiate with terrorists," Louise grinned. "Then he authorized me to retain Martinez and Associates immediately. Full development services, 3-year contract." George actually gasped. Sunrise would triple Martinez's annual revenue. "There's more," Louise continued. "I've spoken with my counterparts at several other companies. We're forming what we're calling a legal defense consortium. Any company that gets sued for changing firms will have their defense costs covered by the group." "A union for corporations?" I asked. "Insurance, strength in numbers. Also sends a message. You come after one of us, you fight all of us." Over the following weeks, 19 companies joined the consortium. The message was clear. Austin Whitfield's threats had backfired spectacularly. The Bradford lawsuit came in May, just as I'd expected. Multiple jurisdictions, emergency injunctions, the full scorched earth treatment. But Louise was right about the consortium. Morrison, Klein & Black, one of Dallas's top litigation firms, took our defense pro bono just for the publicity. The hearing was a massacre. Bradford's team spent 3 days trying to prove I'd stolen trade secrets, only to watch Janet systematically demolish their case with time-stamped files from my personal cloud storage. When they claimed I'd violated my non-compete, she produced emails showing Austin's bad faith termination. When they alleged conspiracy, she presented evidence that every client had reached out to me independently. The judge dismissed with prejudice and ordered Whitfield to pay all defense costs. Austin's father, Harold Whitfield, called me that evening. "Richard, we need to talk." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Harold looked older than his 70 years, the weight of watching his life's work crumble etched in every line. "I built that firm for 40 years, he said quietly. "I thought Austin could learn, could grow into the role. He might have if he'd been willing to listen. I came back from Washington to find half our clients gone, our best engineers quit, and my son threatening to sue everyone in Dallas." Harold stirred his coffee slowly. "What would it take to end this?" "It's already ended," I said. "Whitfield Engineering is finished. The question is whether you want a controlled shutdown or a messy bankruptcy." He nodded slowly. "And Austin?" "Austin is 29. He'll figure something out." 6 months later, I stood in my corner office at Martinez & Associates, watching the "For Lease" sign go up in Whitfield's old building. The firm had quietly dissolved in August, with Harold keeping his retirement fund and Austin getting nothing but a hard lesson in consequences. Linda appeared in my doorway with coffee. "Regrets?" she asked. I thought about it. 23 clients had followed me to Martinez & Associates. We'd hired 15 engineers from Whitfield's wreckage, including Thomas Bennett and 3 others who'd been caught in Austin's incompetence. Sarah had gotten into her first-choice college with a scholarship that covered most of the tuition. Mike had his Xbox and a summer job lined up at our newest project site. "None," I said. "Austin wanted innovation and disruption. He got both." "What about Jeremy?" I'd heard through the grapevine that Jeremy Walsh had moved back to Chicago, working for his uncle's accounting firm. Turns out he was actually good with numbers, just not with construction projects. "He's better off. Engineering wasn't for him." My assistant knocked. "Mr. Callahan, the Martinez & Associates partners meeting is ready. They're announcing the new equity partners today." I straightened my tie. The partners had voted unanimously last week. At 49, I was about to become a full partner in one of Dallas's fastest-growing engineering firms. "Tell them I'll be right there," I said. As I headed to the conference room, I passed the wall where we'd hung the framed newspaper clipping. Martinez & Associates emerges as Dallas's premier engineering firm. Below it, smaller text. Success attributed to innovative compliance practice and exceptional client retention. No mention of Whitfield Engineering. No mention of the 23 clients who'd followed me. No mention of Austin's spectacular failure. History, I'd learned, was written by those who survived to build something better. The conference room was packed with engineers, eager to be part of a firm that valued competence over connections. I looked at them and saw myself 15 years ago, confident in my abilities, unaware how quickly everything could change. "Good afternoon," I began. "Let me tell you about the most important lesson you'll ever learn in this profession. It's not about knowing the regulations, though that matters. It's not about managing schedules or controlling costs, though those matter too. It's about trust. Lose that and you lose everything. Keep it and you'll build something that lasts." I thought about Austin Whitfield, probably selling insurance somewhere in the suburbs now, about Harold, playing golf in retirement, watching his son learn lessons that came too late, about Jeremy, finding his place in a profession that actually suited him. Then I thought about the 23 clients who'd trusted me enough to follow me into uncertainty, and the firm that had given me the chance to prove what experience and competence could build when freed from nepotism and arrogance. "So let's talk about what trust really means," I continued, "and why it's the only currency that matters in this business." The eager faces leaned in, ready to learn, and I was finally ready to teach.